"This is your room, Dad. Go ahead and open the door," she told me with a smile, so I excitedly opened the door, but surprisingly, it turned out to be the door to a bathroom. "Your room is the bathroom. If you don't like it, get out." My daughter and her husband laughed. I had been looking forward to living with them in the house we had bought. This was unforgivable. My name is Kevin. I am now a 64-year-old bachelor. It may sound like I've spent a sad life, but I have a daughter. My daughter's name is Jennifer. She is 32 years old now. "Aren't you seeing anyone?" "What are you talking about? I'm not thinking about getting married again at this age." "That's such a waste. You're a cool man." My daughter is a very nice girl who compliments me and treats me kindly in this way. Since my wife passed away about 30 years ago, I have raised my daughter by myself. When my wife was still alive and well, I was making enough money, so she was a housewife. Although I had a little insurance money that I had taken out on my wife, I didn't want my daughter to suffer with money, and I didn't want to mourn so much over my wife, so I worked very hard. I left my daughter with my parents on weekends and worked at other jobs too. Thanks to my hard work, I was able to send my daughter to college. My parents were very proud of me, and I wanted to congratulate myself for a job well done. My daughter graduated from college and started to work for a company. I was happy that she was working and was deeply moved by the fact that she had grown so much. I hope my daughter will find a good person and be happy. With this in mind, about 3 years after I started working, my daughter brought a man over, saying he was her fiancé. I was really surprised at that time. It was a sudden report, and my daughter's fiancé was a stunningly handsome man. He was over 6 feet tall and had long legs, and when I asked him about his career, he told me that he was a model. He told me that he met my daughter at a party. The company she works for is in the advertising industry, and they met at the launch party of one of their jobs. They got along right away and decided to get married a year after they started dating. They looked very happy together, and they let me know about their marriage, so I thought it was fine if my daughter was happy. However, a while later, when I heard about my daughter's married life, I became a little worried. Her husband's modeling work has decreased since the marriage, and he was no longer working. However, he is not a housewife and does not play a central role in the housework either. Though he sounds like a disaster, my daughter seems to be in love with him and tolerates it. As you can imagine, I was concerned when I heard that. It seems that they are getting by because it is just the two of them living together, but I thought it was a bit strange that they only live off my daughter's income. I had a chance to talk with my daughter alone before, and I asked her if she was dissatisfied with her married life. But despite the situation, my daughter said she was okay, and all she could do was talk about how handsome and nice he was. Well, if she is happy and satisfied with her husband, then I have nothing more to say to her, but I am still bothered that my daughter, whom I raised very carefully as a single father, is with such a bum. So, after she got married, I tried to make time to see her as much as possible. It is fun enough just to talk with her over lunch at a cafe. I try to casually ask her about her married life. My daughter often talks about what she wants to do, where she wants to go, and other dreams she has. Each time, I would smile and think about how I could make her dreams come true. One of her dreams, which she often mentioned, was to build and live in a large house in the city. "People who win in life build a big house, don't they? I want to be one of them as soon as possible." I had never given my daughter of us being poor, but I felt that she was obsessed with the idea of becoming rich. Come to think of it, she has always begged me for luxury brand bags, clothes, and cosmetics. I remember lately scolding her, saying that I couldn't buy her such expensive things since she was still a high schooler. I remember that my daughter didn't agree with me and told me I was selfish, and I was troubled at that time. Thinking about it, my daughter may have originally had a strong yearning for glamorous things. The man she chose as her husband was also a glamorous man, but now that my daughter is working as an adult, she's probably able to live a decent life while taking good balance. Then one day, my daughter's husband contacted me and asked to speak with me out of the blue. He asked if there were any days available as my daughter and her husband were going to come visit my house. I was taken aback. My daughter's husband rarely came to see me. At first, I thought he didn't like me. Since they got married, the only person I had seen was my daughter, and when I told my daughter that she could invite her husband over occasionally, she softly refused. saying no, it was fine. So, when he said he wanted to talk to me, I was a little wary. It must be something very important or serious for my daughter's husband to want to come to see me. I nervously invited them into the house. "Hi, it's been a while. I'm sorry for barging in on you so suddenly." "No, it's all right. What did you want to talk about?" I asked while serving tea, wanting to get right to the point. I had a bad feeling about this. Then, my daughter's husband made an unexpected remark. "If you would like, why don't you come and live with us? Of course, if you don't want to, you can refuse." I was very surprised. I never thought that he would come to me with a proposal to move in together. My daughter looked at me and smiled gently. I was caught off guard and was about to cry. If I said a word now, tears would well up. It must have been a little while after my daughter got married. I had once suggested that she should move in with me when I heard that her husband had lost his job and was no longer working, but she had refused, telling me not to worry at that time. I was of course eager to support her so that her life would not be difficult, so I really wanted to live with her. But since she refused, and since they had somehow continued to manage after that, I had given up on the idea. Then, now all of a sudden, they proposed living together, and I was thrilled. "How do you feel about it?" I took a deep breath and began to speak slowly. "I'm very happy that you guys have asked me to move in with you. I wanted to live together for a long time, but I didn't want to force you to do so. That's why I've been keeping it to myself for a while now." "So, is it okay to think that you'll move in with us then?" my daughter asked, and I gave her a big nod. Both of their expressions brightened up, and I was happy to see that too. "I was surprised at your sudden proposal to move in together. Why did you decide to that?" I asked for no special reason. Then my daughter smiled gently and said, "You're already over 60 years old, and will be retiring soon, right? No matter how much you try to cover it up, it will get harder and harder to lead a normal life as you get older, so I wanted to move in with you as soon as possible so that I could be ready to deal with any problems that might arise." Her words brought tears to my eyes. I was happy to see her grow to be such a parent-loving child. "Besides, my husband was the one who suggested that we move in together." I looked at her husband in surprise. Her husband was smiling kindly at me. It seems that I had been mistaken in thinking that he might not like me. I was really happy that both of them were kind to me. To tell the truth, I was not anxious about my retirement. I didn't feel any particular problems in terms of money, but I had worked so hard when I was young that I was worried that my body might not be able to move as much as it should when I got older. If I should fall ill at home, there would be no one to help me if I lived alone, so having someone to live with would alleviate that anxiety. Besides, I was more than happy to be able to live with my daughter again. "Thank you both. I would love to move in with you." And so we decided to live together. However, there was one thing that was the problem. Where would we live? I have always tried to live a simple life, and currently live in a reasonably priced room for a single person. My daughter and her husband also live in a 2-bedroom apartment that is just the right size for them, so both rooms are too small for the 3 of us. When I asked about this, my daughter suggested that we look for a house where we can live together for a long time. Surely that was a good idea. I took my daughter's suggestion, and we immediately decided to look for a house together. My daughter and I went to a real estate agency and looked at a variety of properties. I thought we were going to live in an apartment, but my daughter was asking me about houses. "Are you looking for a house?" When I asked her that, she replied, "Well, we're all going to live together, so we might as well get a house we can live in forever." I was so happy to hear her words that I let her lead the conversation. "We will live together forever, and it would be a relief to have a house where my daughter can live happily after I pass away. Besides, if a grandchild is born, it would be better to have a house." With that in mind, I agreed to look for a suitable one with her. However, the ones she wanted to look at were all very expensive and luxurious. That's when I remembered. My daughter used to talk about her dream of building a big house in a high-end residential area. Maybe she thinks she can fulfill it now. My daughter was looking at the information with a happy look on her face. "Dad, isn't this place great?" "Let me see." I was surprised when I saw the document she handed to me. It was a very luxurious house, priced at $2 million. I asked whether it was too expensive for us to afford, but she just fell in love with the place. My daughter was obviously disheartened by my statement. I felt very sorry, but honestly, it was pretty expensive for our budget. If we're going to go through all this trouble, I want to live in a house that she'll be happy with. It would be a house she would live in for the rest of her life, and at that time, I was probably elated that she would be able to live with me. When I showed my daughter the other properties I had looked at, she didn't respond well to them. What if she suggests that we actually shouldn't live together? Before I knew it, I had begun to be modest when I talked to her in order for her to let me move in with them. Oh, how about this place? I'd rather stay in that house. I see. My daughter, who had been so happy to live with me, gradually began to look bored. It's our first and last chance to live together. She said this to me as if this was really my last chance, which made me pretty rushed to make a decision. Then one day, my daughter finally pressured me to make a final decision. Dad, if you want to live with us, you have to buy that $2 million house. She said this like if it was not that house, she would not want to talk about moving in together. I had already lost my ability to make a calm decision. Okay, then let's buy the house and move in together. My daughter's face lit up when I said that. Yes! Thank you, Dad! Now my dream will come true! As I watched my daughter look so happy, I asked myself, is this what I want? My daughter's husband was also very happy, so I decided to accept that if they were both happy, then it was okay. And so, we decided to build a house in a high-end residential area. It was my daughter's dream, and I myself was not that particular about the layout, interior, or exterior of the house, so we decided to build a house exactly as she and her husband wanted. My daughter seemed happy and was thinking about what kind of house to build. They do not have that much money, so it would inevitably be me who would make the payments. However, seeing my daughter smile like this, I would have no problem paying this much. So, about a year has passed since the construction started. The house that my daughter and her husband had been so particular about was finally completed. It was definitely the most expensive purchase I have ever made, but this house that showed my life's worth was very magnificent. I think it is not inferior to other luxurious houses in the neighborhood. On the day of the move, I went to the new house by myself. My daughter and her husband had already arrived at the new house and were moving furniture and appliances into the house. Dad! Oh, you two are already here. We were kind of restless, so we came first thing in the morning to move the stuff in. I see you got here pretty early, too. I was restless, too. Smiling and wondering if we were thinking the same thing, I entered the house. It was a new house, so of course it was beautiful, but it was so luxurious and spacious that I couldn't quite believe that this was going to be my home. Maybe I have been living too frugally up until now. From now on, I will have to get used to living in this luxurious house. I want to put my stuff in here too, but which room should I use? I asked my daughter and her husband, and they both looked at each other and laughed. What on earth was so funny? Did I say something strange? They stopped moving their things to show me my room. I'll show you the room I've prepared for you now. How could they have prepared a room for me? I was moved by the kindness of my daughter and her husband. I followed them. It was a room at the back of the second floor. I wondered if I could use the second floor when I became older and my back and knees hurt, but my daughter had prepared this room for me, so I couldn't complain. Besides, I was more excited about the room my daughter had prepared for me. This is your room, Dad. Go ahead and open the door, she told me with a smile, so I excitedly opened the door. What's going on? To my surprise, it turned out to be the door to the bathroom. Is this my room? This is some kind of joke, right? No, we're not joking at all. We're serious. Your room is the bathroom. If you don't like it, get out. My daughter and her husband laughed as they said this. I could not understand the situation at all. As I was stunned, my daughter made a surprising remark. All you had to do was give me the money. But you were worried about me and wanted to live with me, right? It was your husband's idea. When I said this, they both snickered. Of course, that's just a lie to get your attention. I'm sure I'm right in saying that this plan was my idea and that I proposed it, but I don't think I'd want to live with a plain, poor-looking guy like you. I'm sorry, Dad. I can't say no to my husband, and this is what he says. What my darling says is absolute. No, that can't be. If you understand, please get the hell out of my house. If you want to live in this bathroom on the second floor, I can leave you there, because we'll mainly use the bathroom on the first floor, but we'll ask you to eat and do everything in that room. If you don't like it, then you'll have to leave. There was no way I could live like that. In other words, I had no choice but to leave this house. Dad, you're not going to tell me you'll live in the bathroom, are you? With that kind of pressure from my daughter, I felt I had no choice but to get out of the house. Okay, I'll go. I'll leave. When I said this, the two of them instantly started smiling. Thank you, Dad. You've done such a great job raising me and giving us such a beautiful home. My daughter's words, which would have made me cry and rejoice, were completely sarcastic at this point. With my spirit in shreds, I grabbed my luggage and headed for the front door. As I left the house, I could hear the two of them talking happily. I am sure they were talking about how well their plan went. When I left the house, I see the two of them start to carry their remaining luggage out of the car again. I started walking towards the train station, desperately holding back tears. I had built this house looking forward to living with them, so why were they treating me like this? Had I harassed my daughter or husband in any way? It's just too much to take. They just want me to do what they want, make me pay for it, and then leave when they're done with me. I cannot forgive them. So I decided to take revenge. I had already moved out of the apartment I used to live in, so as soon as they kicked me out, I looked for a place to live that was about the same price as before. I found a place that just met my requirements, so I decided to live there. A carefree life, living alone. It is a very peaceful and tranquil life. However, it was about time for things to start getting noisy. It has been almost a month since I was shooed out from the house. As I had expected, my phone rang. I look at the screen and see my daughter's name. I ignore it once, and the phone rings again immediately. I had no choice but to answer the phone. Hello? Hey, Dad, what's going on? I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play dumb with me. We've got a notice about the house, and we've been evicted. She was very upset. Wow, that's a big deal. As I said that, the voice on the phone suddenly changed. Don't be silly. You have something to do with this, you old man, don't you? She was probably on speaker. The voice on the phone was my daughter's husband. Well, I'm going to break the news to you, but I've put the house on the market. I could hear over the phone that my daughter and her husband were absolutely mortified when I said this. How could you do that? We live in this house. How stupid can they be? I had no idea that even my daughter was this incomprehensive. Who bought the house? Who paid for it? Normally, the person who bought the house should be the owner of the house, right? Don't you understand unless I tell you this much? The two of them seemed to finally understand what was happening. Dad, I'm sorry. It's true that since you bought the house, you have the right to live here. Yeah, there's a vacant room for you to live in. It is not too late. You should come live with us. Yes, you're right. You wanted to move in with us, right? This change in attitude was just unacceptable. It's too late. I know what you're really thinking, and I'm not going to have anything to do with you anymore. Now get the hell out of my house before I report you. Dad, are you abandoning your own daughter? I don't want to hear from a girl who betrayed her own father. I'm done with you. No, please. And you, sir. I don't want to live with a man like you, who only looks good on the outside, but empty on the inside. When you get old, you'll look like a wretched, shabby man. You're already miserable. Take this opportunity to do some serious work. The reality is not that easy. Okay, I've got to go now. Hey, I still need to talk to you. My daughter's husband was trying to say something back, but I hung up without a second thought. I then blocked my daughter's number. A short time later, I received a call that my daughter and her husband had been arrested. Apparently, the management company had visited them because they had not moved out, even though they had received a notice of forced eviction. They stubbornly refused to leave, so the police were called and rushed to the scene, and they were arrested for trespassing. They resisted it when this happened, and so were charged with obstruction of justice. They had bought expensive furniture and appliances, all at once for their new home, but because of the arrest, my daughter was fired from her job, her husband was fined for his repeated crimes, and they were now in debt. Well, I had nothing to do with it anymore, and everything was their fault. The new house I sold, to my surprise, sold for more than the purchase price, which was a miracle and added a few million yen to my account. I felt like I had gained something since I received unexpected extra income. Now, I live in a rural area since I had just retired and wanted to be away from my daughter. This is my hometown where my wife and I met, and it was the place I missed. I will enjoy the rest of my life here. Oh, Kevin, is that you? Jack? I was reunited with a good friend who I spent my school days with, and now I'm living a good life, regularly going out for drinks with him. Thank you for watching. How did you like today's story? Please subscribe to our channel. See you next time.